So you're struggling to focus. Every time you find yourself not doing as much as you wish you could in the time that got to actually do an assignment, or you find yourself spacing out or being distracted by other things. This is a strategy to help you if you're on that boat. This is a strategy to help you be more productive and be less distracted. Now, I have a different video that talks more about some other strategies to limit the distractions in your life and improve your focus. But this one is one of my favorites. This is called a focus timer. In order for this to work, you have to have a dedicated timer, right? So, like, you could do this with a phone or on a computer. In fact, if you open a tab, I have one right here, but I'm going to try to find a better one. If you open a tab and you just Google timer, right? Automatically, Google gives you a timer that you can actually use. You can reset, you can start. It's very easy to write a number of how long you want it to, and then hit enter, and then it goes for you. So it's kind of like a native timer if you go to Google search. So it's easy to do that. However, the whole point of the timer is to help you focus. So you don't really want to do it on a computer where other tabs might end up distracting you, or on a phone where notifications or apps could distract you. The best thing to do is to actually buy a kitchen timer, something like this, or maybe the school can provide you with one. But if you have something like that, or a wristwatch that has a timer feature on it, that would be good, because then you have a dedicated timer that you can use for this task. The way it works is this. Let's say you start with something like 5 minutes, right? So I'm going to over here, and I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes on the screen, right? Now, before I start the timer, I'm going to think about, this is what I want to get done in these 5 minutes. I'm just going to say, I'm going to write a whole paragraph in these 5 minutes. I'm going to write at least 4 sentences, right? And then you start your timer, and you get to work. And then hopefully you focus during those 5 minutes. Hopefully, as the time ticks down, you don't even notice. You're so focused on the task at hand that you get the job done, right? And then eventually that timer is going to get to 0 seconds and it's going to go off, right? Something like this, right? Then you go back to your timing and you reset it, you stop it, and then you look at the amount of work you've done. You say, wow, I actually got some work done here. And one way you can do this, by the way, to keep track of how much you've done is put a little mark, like a highlighting on the paper on the last part that you were at when you started the timer, or right before you start the timer. And then when the timer ends, see how far from there you are. Let's say I was reading this, right? I should have been able to read this in 5 minutes. Let's say I started right there, and then when the timer went off, I was actually somewhere around here. Well, I feel like that was pretty good for 5 minutes. I did my job. Awesome. If that's what happens, you give yourself a break. That's right. You reward yourself with time off. You literally relax, you don't work, you go do something else. Maybe you get up and do some jumping jacks, which, believe me, it actually helps you focus afterwards. You do some breathing exercises, some stretching, some mindfulness. Maybe you walk around a little. Maybe you go say hi to a friend. Maybe you take a drink of water, you get a snack. You don't work. And you'd be surprised, a minute goes pretty fast. So what you do need to time yourself during that minute too. So you put your timer for 1 minute and you go take a break. I'll keep talking for a minute so you can see that it's not actually that long, right? Now, while that minute is happening, you are enjoying yourself for how hard you worked on the time before. When the minute finally goes off and the alarm rings, all right, you go right back to work. But before you do so, you say, okay, this is my goal for these next 5 minutes. This is what I'm going to get done. Or you say an affirmation, something like, I am going to be focused. And then you start, right? You start your timer. And again, you try to work for 5 minutes. And what if you get distracted, though? What if you get pulled away? What if you get a text message, or somebody calls you, or there's a sound that distracts you, or you just basically space out? At the end of the 5 minutes, you're going to look at your work and you're going to say, wow, really didn't get that much done, did I? And then you might be like, oh, wow, I got to do better than that. I got to actually try to focus better. At the end of those 5 minutes, you reevaluate your goals and you reset the time and you try right away. Right? That was a minute, by the way. See, this is not that long. But the key thing is that you don't get a break this time because you didn't focus. You already got a break. You got an unproductive break while you were spaced out or doing something you weren't supposed to be doing it. It's not the kind of break that recharges you, the kind of break that's intentional. It's like you didn't have control, right? So the key is to actually have control over your focus, right? It's an exercise to actually help you focus better. So if you lost focus, you're not in control, you don't get the break. You just reset the timer. You say, I'm going to do better this time. You go right away. And hopefully this time you do a better job. What if you get distracted again? Wow, wow, that's a bummer. Well, it seems like you're having trouble focusing for a whole 5 minutes, though. So then what you should do next time around is lower your time. So the next time around, instead of setting your time for 5 minutes, maybe you set it for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, or even 4 minutes, and you just start your time. And now your goal is different. You don't have to focus for 5 minutes in order to get a break. You have to focus for 4 minutes to get a break. And if you can focus for 4 minutes, you get that break. But if you don't focus, you reset the time right away. You reset your mindset. You say, I'm going to do a better job this time. Man, I got distracted because of my cell phone. I'm going to put my cell phone away, right? You think about what's causing the problem, right? You do a mini reflection, just 10 seconds. Ah, man, my parents keep calling me, distracting me with my attention. I got to find a way to not be distracted. So I'm going to go into a different room so I can be quiet. Then, right, you find a solution for your problem. You reset the timer. You try again. Now, if you fail twice in a row, you lower the time and you don't get breaks if you fail. But if you actually succeed twice in a row, you raise your time and you get breaks when you actually each time that you succeed. And that way you practice focusing your intentions. Every time before you start, you set a goal for yourself, you say an affirmation. Every time when you end, you do a quick evaluation of what you did and a quick problem solving task if you realize what's actually distracting you. And then you go at it again. And you keep doing this until you can do 7 minutes, 9 minutes, 11 minutes. And by the time you get to like 15 minutes, you start giving yourself a 2 minute breaks. And maybe someday you can get up all the way to 30 minutes. And if you work for 30 minutes, that's pretty good. At that point, your brain literally needs a brain break, right? You really need to rest so that you can recharge and focus again. Going for more than 30, 40 minutes, it's probably too much. You probably want to relax for a little bit if you actually work for that long and you give yourself a pat on the back. So you give yourself a whole 5 minutes breaks and you really go do something that you enjoy, right? Reward yourself for the fact that you actually worked that hard. So the cool thing about this process is that it helps you stay focused. It helps you learn how to focus better. It helps you realize what's breaking your attention. Every time the timer goes off and you spaced out, it actually brings you back from being spaced out. It makes you realize that you're wasting time. And on top of that, you're doing this miniature goal setting, intention setting, and reflection each time the interval happens, which helps you be more intentional about how you spend your time. So it's a way to hold yourself accountable and a way to bring you back if you get distracted. It's an excellent way to stay more focused. And focus is like everything else. It's a skill. If you practice, you get better at it. So it might be, it seemed like a lot right now to have a timer that you're using, whatever. But if you do this with fidelity and you actually try, you can improve your focus. And over time, you can actually become better to the point that you might not need a timer in order to be able to focus for extended periods of time. I still use one though, because I like to be able to keep account of my time and be sure that I'm being not spending too long working on one given task. And so I also use something that's called a limit timer. And I talk about that in a different video. But this skill, I hope you try it. I hope you'd use it. And I hope it helps you be better. Don't do anything that would make your mama proud.